Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Devon Flanagan. First I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Devon Flanagan was born in January 1991 and lived in Rhode Island. According to her LinkedIn profile, she graduated from high school in 2009. After this, she attended the Catholic University of America, graduating in 2013 with a bachelor's degree in finance. In 2016, Devon earned a JD at Suffolk University Law School. In 2018, she became a Special Assistant Attorney General in Rhode Island, assigned to the Appellate Unit of the Criminal Division. On January 5, 2019, Devon married a man named William Hogan. In August of that year, she moved to Warwick, Rhode Island. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On August 14, 2025, at 9:51 p.m., the police responded to the Clark Cook House at 24 Bannister's Wharf in Newport, Rhode Island, after receiving a report about patrons who were refusing to leave the premises. Police officers approached 34-year-old Devon Flanagan, who was with another 34-year-old woman named Veronica Hannon. It appeared as though the women may have been intoxicated. Either that or their acting skills were incredible. There was a man with the women who the police identified in a report as James, Veronica's husband. Veronica lived in Westport, Connecticut. According to her LinkedIn profile, she earned a master's degree in business analysis from the Catholic University of America and worked as a senior manager at PepsiCo. Based on what James told the police, he and Veronica knew Devon from college. When the officers were just a few feet away, Devon pointed her finger and said, "I want you to turn your body cam off. Protocol is that you turn it off if a citizen requests that you turn it off." The police later released a statement indicating that is not the protocol. An officer said, "So they want you guys to leave. Let's just leave. Let's just make it easy, okay?" Devon did not have an interest in making anything easy and turned around to talk to Veronica. The officer walked over to an employee of the restaurant and asked, "You guys just want them out? Do you want them trespassed?" The employee responded, "Anything we can do. Trespass? Yeah. I just need them out, please." The officer walked back to the women who were still talking to each other. He said to them, "So you're trespassing. We got to leave now." Devon said, "We're not trespassing. You haven't notified us that we're trespassing." The officer replied, "What did I just say to you? You're trespassing. I don't want to arrest you guys." Devon confidently declared, "You're not going to arrest us." The officer interrupted and said, "Let's leave. We got to go. We got to go." Devon once again talked about the non-existent protocol where the officer was supposedly required to turn off the body camera because she asked. While pointing her thumb at Devon, Veronica chimed in and said, "She's a blanking lawyer, so she knows." The officer responded, "Well, that's blank lawyer stuff, so that's not true. We got to go." The blank rhymes with full hit. Veronica said, "No, it is. That's the law." Devon said, "I'm an AG. I'm an AG." The officer was unimpressed, saying, "Good for you. I don't give a blank. Let's go." Veronica said, "Please don't put your hands on us." The officer produced his handcuffs and grabbed Devon. As he pushed her toward a police cruiser holding her, she repeatedly stated she was an AG and asked the question, "What are your probable cause to detain me for?" Based on her response, one possibility was the homicide of Grammar. At this point, another unidentified man can be seen talking to the officer. He said, "Her badge is in the car. You want me to get a badge?" Devon continued to express her displeasure regarding the officer's behavior and said, "You're arresting an AG. Let me tell you something." As she was being placed in the back seat of the police cruiser, Devon issued a dire warning, saying, "You're going to regret this. You're going to regret it." She then said, "I am an A." At this moment, the officer closed the door, so whatever else Devon said was not audible. The officer's timing was perfect. How did Devon finish this statement? Probably with the letter G, although, arguably, based on her behavior, the word whole would have fit pretty well too. The officer then turned his attention to Veronica. She was resisting arrest. As the officers were trying to handcuff her, Veronica briefly escaped and moved a few feet away. As the officers re-engaged, Veronica told James, "Babe, "Babe, please, I'm scared." James kept annoyingly repeating the phrase, "I'm right here." When the police finally handcuffed Veronica and walked her over to a police cruiser, she was not excited about the idea of getting in. She vigorously resisted at this point, screaming, "No, no, no, babe, no." Veronica kept sticking her feet out of the cruiser, which prevented the police from closing the door all the way. The officers were finally able to get her in the vehicle and close the door. Devon Flanagan was charged with willful trespass. During the booking process, Devon allegedly berated officers, repeatedly stated that she was an AG, and refused to follow instructions. Veronica Hannon was charged with willful trespass, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. At the time I'm making this video, the women are working their way through the criminal justice system. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Devon and Veronica are both professionals. At some point, presumably, they must have demonstrated some type of impressive skill. They were competent and productive. At the restaurant in Newport, they were belligerent, uncooperative, arrogant, and embarrassed themselves thoroughly. As I mentioned, alcohol may have played a part. If it did, why did the women drink so much and put themselves in this unfortunate situation? They didn't have the judgment to realize this was a bad idea? I find that difficult to believe based on their career success. Item number 2. Both women in this case were arrogant, condescending, grandiose, falsely believed they were special, and demonstrated a sense of entitlement. What role does alcohol play in the expression of these characteristics? Can alcohol actually create a temporary state of narcissism, or does it amplify narcissistic traits that were already there? Also, what is the effect of alcohol on other personality characteristics, like those from the 5-factor model? Here's what the research says about this. Alcohol does not have any creative ability. It cannot cause a personality trait to exist. It simply amplifies and distorts traits that are already there. The effect of alcohol is a lot like a volume knob on an old stereo. It can increase the volume and distort the sound, but it does not write the songs. The volume knob is modifying a pre-existing sound. Here is the effect that alcohol has on each of the big 5 personality traits, according to the research. As a reminder, the big 5 traits are openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. I remember them through the acronym OCEAN. Alcohol decreases the expression of openness to experience. It impairs flexible thinking and working memory. People become less creative, less open to novel ideas, and less reflective. They often incorrectly believe they are having a moment of creativity when intoxicated because they explore bizarre ideation. Alcohol decreases conscientiousness. Deliberation, achievement striving, self-discipline, orderliness, and cautiousness are all reduced. An individual becomes more impulsive. They disregard consequences and make rash decisions. This effect on conscientiousness by alcohol is one of the most consistent findings across experimental studies. Alcohol increases extroversion. When people drink, they often become talkative, friendly, outgoing, confident, and excitement-seeking. They take risks, appear to be happier, and have more energy. This is why alcohol is often referred to as a social lubricant. The effect alcohol has on agreeableness depends on the person. Some people become more cooperative when they drink, but usually people become more defiant, hostile, and argumentative. With this trait, alcohol tends to amplify it in the same direction as stress does for that particular person. As far as the last personality trait, neuroticism, alcohol typically increases its expression, but the immediate effect is usually in the opposite direction. When a person starts drinking, they become less anxious, depressed, and fearful. This is why alcohol is sometimes called liquid courage. As drinking continues, however, neuroticism increases, and the individual becomes fearful, sad, emotionally unstable, and loses self-control. Alcohol may start off as a brave friend, but it soon turns into a paranoid adversary. It's worth noting that this initial decrease effect on neuroticism, that is, little alcohol decreases it and more alcohol increases it, is not universal. If a person already has high neuroticism, they are more likely to see an immediate increase, when they start drinking. Item number 3, what do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. People tend to believe that alcohol brings out the real person, like the mask has slipped and all is revealed. It's more accurate to say that many of the factors that restrain bad behavior are stripped away, especially the ones that keep narcissistic tendencies in check. Once the restraints are gone, the negative characteristics are free to go wild. Devon and Veronica consumed alcohol, which amplified their negative traits. When they weren't drinking, they managed to contain certain traits like arrogance and grandiosity, at least enough to function in professional and social life. When the alcohol was introduced, it was a different story. Those traits were set free for all the world to see. This created a nightmare for the police. The officers tried to de-escalate the situation, but the women would not listen to reason. Their sense of entitlement was unbreakable. Devon in particular was convinced that her status as an AG could somehow override reality, including the legal authority of the officers. The behavior that Devon and Veronica demonstrated was egregious and embarrassing. What's more, it has been memorialized in the body camera video. Every time someone searches the internet for Devon or Veronica, they will find their terrible behavior on display. The women will probably be able to escape severe criminal consequences, but the reputational damage will last a lifetime. Devon and Veronica are responsible for their own behavior, alcohol-induced or not. Their story should cause any person considering alcohol consumption to think twice. Those are my thoughts on the case of Devon Flanagan. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.